And we're live. Hey everyone, I'm Marco. I'm one of the co-mentors here at the PreWork, and I'm running you guys through the info session today, talking about our full stack web development apprenticeship online coding bootcamp. So let's jump straight in and see what are we going to cover, what I'm going to talk about today. So I think first of all, what I really like to do is run you guys through our core curriculum and tell you about the web applications that you're building, what kind of features you can expect to learn how to build with us, what kind of coding languages, what kind of technical skills you're getting going through that. Talk a little bit how we customize our curriculum for like entrepreneurs who want to build their own idea out, or people who are on a job seeker track, right? People want to learn how to land a job, learn the skills to land a job and actually work as a technical team member on a web development team at a startup or a mid-sized company. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk a little bit about our support system, right? How we have office hours, how we have mentorship sessions, how we have our Q&A forum to help troubleshoot. And then I always want to answer that one question that I usually get, which is like, hey Marco, what can I actually do besides like reach my goal after I'm done with the program? So these are the three big topics that I'm going to cover today. And then obviously, if you guys have questions, right, feel free to email me. Put them in the question box on the Google Plus page, and I'm going through that at the end. I'm about 2 minutes ahead of you guys, so make sure you answer your question as soon as you have your question, so I'll sure have enough time to go through all of them. I already received some questions, which is awesome, so I'm definitely going to make sure I cover those. Okay, let's jump straight in. Core curriculum, right? What are we going to do? So let's say first 10 hours, what are we going to do, right? Some of you guys are already going through the pre-work, which is awesome. You guys are already learning Ruby and HTML and CSS. For everyone else, look at our pre-work. That's a really good segue into our core program. And we actually require it as part of our application process, but I'll talk about that more later. So let's like talk about you coming out of the pre-work, right? You already have a good foundation. Then in the first 10 hours, what we want you to do is build a Rails application and push it live onto the internet, push it live onto your own server, right? So it's a fairly simple application that randomly pulls out quotes out of a database and displays it to the users on a page. Well, what this does is like it gives you kind of this 360-degree view over all the technologies that you're going to touch, right, or most of them. So you're going to be able to work in the Rails framework. You're going to be able to write Ruby code. You're going to be able to use Git for version control, GitHub to back up your code, and then also Heroku as a server to push your application live, right? And one of the goals here at the PreWork that we have is everything needs to look solid, like on all devices, right? So it looks good on mobile, tablets, and desktop. So that means is like what we're shooting for. If you're at a party and you pull out your phone and you go like to your friends or to your family, it's like, hey, I built this last night. The reply that we're shooting for is like, oh wow, you built this? This looks awesome, right? So that's what we're going for. So the whole application that you're building is wrapped into a mobile-first design, so it looks good on your iPhone or your Android phone, and it looks also good on the tablet, so you can show that application off. Now, that's the first 10 hours, right? Then we crank it up a notch, and we keep your learning curve steep. So that means next application we're building together with you is a Yelp clone, right? So I think the best feature that we're having there is the integration with the Google Map API. So that means we need to write the Ruby code to grab a location, an address out of a form that a user types in, right? For example, if I have an awesome pizza place, I would type the address for my awesome pizza place in there. We're going to write the Ruby code to grab that address, save it in a database, translate it into longitude and latitude coordinates, pass it back into the Google Map API, so we get the little pin on the map. That's one of the features, right? But it wouldn't be a really interesting web application if that's all that it could do. So the other thing that we're doing is we're making sure we have user comments and star ratings, right? And then, so the other thing that goes with that is automated email notifications, right? So if you guys would go to my page for my awesome pizza place, and you gave me a 5-star rating and left a comment like, hey, best pizza ever here in New York or here in Boston, I wanted to get an automated email notification saying like, hey, somebody just gave you a rating. You may as well check that out with a link back to the application. Another thing that we're building is a dashboard where we want to bring in a little bit of analytics and actually have a place where an owner like me of a pizza place can go and say, here's the average ratings that you've gotten, the average comments last week maybe, and give you that kind of information in one place. Obviously, we also have to have user authentication, right? Log in, log out registration. That's something simple to build, and we built that pretty fast. That usually takes our students, I'd say, about 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. Some of them go through that a little faster. Next, what we're doing is we have a module on test-driven development, right? And that's really important to us. Test-driven development, just short, if you don't know what that is yet, it's the industry standard. Without being able to do that, you're gonna have a hard time landing a job or working on your own projects. And test-driven development is basically writing software tests to test automatically if our application is still working in every single regard and nothing is broken. And by test-driven development, we're writing the tests first before we build the features to make sure everything has test coverage and everything is working properly the whole time while we're actually coding. So we have a full module on that. That comes next. That's for everyone, entrepreneurs as well as job seekers. We really want to make sure you have the latest skills of test-driven development and you know how to write good tests for your own applications. Next, we crank it up a notch and we build an online learning platform together with you. So when I say online learning platform, what we're doing here as a platform is there's different user roles. And since it's an online learning platform, we're going to have students on one side and instructors on the other. So that means we need to track on a database level different user roles. And that's really key because tracking those different users on a database level, making sure all these relations are working, that's really advanced stuff. And that's really important for anything else that you're going to do in the future. So that means in the reality of our online learning platform, we need to make sure which student actually purchased which course from which instructor, right? And we need to take care of that on a database level so we can always show the correct courses to the students. Now, I just mentioned purchased, right? Another feature that we're building on inside of the learning application is the ability to accept payments. So we want to accept credit card payments on our application. So for that, we integrate with the Stripe API so you can actually make money on your application and dollars, whatever currency you're using, exchanges hands on the application. Now, other things that we're building is besides user authentication, again, user login, logout registration, is we introduce you to JavaScript and jQuery as a module in that application, right? We want to give you the skills to use JavaScript and build something that improves the user experience for an instructor. In specific detail, what we're doing is, from scratch, we're building a drag and drop interface so we can reorganize our lesson blocks as an instructor really easy without a page reload. So we're using some AJAX requests there. So that's kind of like the application that we're going to build on the learning side platform. We also do video streaming there, right? That's something that we need. It's an online learning platform. A lot of content is given via video, so we're learning that as well. Now, those are the 3 web applications, or the 4 that we're building. One is the test-driven development application that we're building. Now, the one thing that's happening throughout that whole process while you go through is we're having coding challenges where you need to write Ruby code to build algorithms and solve complicated coding challenges. That's really important for the job seekers, but it's also really important for entrepreneurs to get that understanding of how to write really good code to build advanced logic. And that becomes then really important when we kind of split out, right? So let's talk about the entrepreneurs and the job seekers, right? How do we customize that curriculum here? Let's talk about the job seekers first. What we're going to do with you guys in the last 4 weeks of the program is we're going to put you on a group project to build a chess game as a team. Now, let's first of all talk about why as a team, right? If you're looking at how software is built in the world, the best software out there is always built by great teams. You absolutely need to know how to work together as a team. If you don't know that as a job seeker, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage to everyone else who knows how to code collaboratively. Why? Because every single job that you're getting will always involve teamwork. And if you know how to work together with a team using the tools like GitHub and pull requests and merging, properly, you're gonna be a person who has an impact on day one. That's why a group project is so important. The other thing is, it will teach you how the real world skills, how to critique somebody else's code, how to refactor somebody's code, how to improve somebody's code, how to make sure the application isn't broken, and how to communicate and break the individual pieces of a feature up in smaller steps so you don't actually step on each other's toes when you're coding and run into what's called merge conflict. So those are real world skills. And like, just to tell you a little bit of a story, like our students, when they get interviewed for jobs, they usually spend the majority, like 60–70% of their interview time, I'm talking about 1 or 2 hour long interviews, explaining the code that they wrote during the group project and drawing from that experience, right? The question, tell me about a time when you really struggled and overcome it, right? Overcame that struggle, that hurdle. That's usually in a group project when you work together with other people, because that's how it is in the real world, and how to figure out how to improve somebody's code or fix an error that you ran into because of somebody else's code. Those are real world scenarios. And that's exactly what hiring managers are looking for and want to hear from. So group project, right? Really important. I can't stress that enough, how important it is to work together with other teams. We do that for full 4 weeks. Now, why do we build a chess application? Because it is really, really challenging, right? You may say, well, a chess game, that's not that amazing, right? Can't we build like something like a Facebook, right? Well, sorry, like building an application like an Instagram or Facebook or Yelp, that's fairly trivial for an experienced web app developer. But building something like a chess application where you need to write the logic to keep track of all the pieces and moving it up and down, left and right on the field and validating that the moves are correct, that's really challenging, and it requires a lot of logic that we need to write with Ruby code. So doing the group project, what's happening is all the Ruby code writing skills that you receive from going through all the real world coding challenges come together with the Rails framework, and you're using them together on a group project. And that's what impresses the hiring manager, how all these skills come together and you have them all and you can use them in the right way. And that's the group project for all the people who are looking for jobs or transitioning careers. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, on the other hand, what we're doing in the last 4 weeks is we're taking your idea for your web application, and during that last 4 weeks time, we're gonna, this is the capstone project of the program, we're gonna take your idea, we wireframe it out, so basically draw out every single screen of your application, and then we do, break it down into individual coding steps and features, and we start coding one after another together. That's you and your mentor will develop your own application. So at the end, you have your own application live on the internet and ready to go and ready to have users on that. Okay, that was the core curriculum and how we customize it for our entrepreneurs and our job seekers. Now let's take a step back and talk a little bit about our support system, right? Mentorship sessions are obviously really, really crucial and an important part of our program. But what's also really important is the Q&A forum, right? The question and answers forum. And that is when you have a trouble, right? You're coding Thursday night and you run into an error message. You go through our regular error message troubleshooting, but you can't quite get a hold of it. You can't quite fix it, right? Take a screenshot of the error message, paste it into our forum, and within an hour or two, we get you the help you need, and we point out, hey, on line 13, what you're missing there is a comma, right? At the comma, you're good, you're error-free. Now, this doesn't sound exciting, but it is a really crucial part of our program, because what that enables you to do is to arrive at your mentorship sessions error-free, right? So you're coming into mentorship sessions and your Yelp clone or your online learning platform, those applications are all error-free and they're working. So we don't have to spend the mentorship session like debugging your code and being like, hey, you're missing a semicolon there. Hey, there needs to be an equal sign after the percentage sign. That would take care in the forum. What we can then do in the office hour, in the mentorship session is we can really do a deep dive on certain skills that are key for you to achieve your goal, be it as an entrepreneur, launch your own application, or land your job. So that means we can really work on teaching you how to write better algorithms. We can really teach you how to write better tests to do test-driven development and test the individual features of your application. We can deep dive and give you advanced skills for GitHub that you need on the group project, right? Or if you have a certain feature that you want to build out, for example, like live refresh on a map where we see cars drive over if you want to do something like an Uber clone or something like that. And I can give you examples of what our students done in a moment with that. Then we can integrate with like Firebase, which is a JavaScript framework that we can use for that, right? So those are a few things that we do during the mentorship session. It's always to get you from one level to the next level and not worrying about the troubleshooting, because we take care of that beforehand. The other thing that we have is the weekly office hours. And I love the office hours because it's a time where all of our students come together. So you're going to be in the same Google Hangout type video chat with students from all the way from Bangkok all the way to LA. And we're gonna, in that session, in the virtual office hours, we're gonna talk about troubleshooting, right? So some student might have an error message that is like 8 weeks ahead in the program, right? And you may have just joined. You see what kind of code they're working on and how that code not only works and understand it, but you also see like what errors they're running into and how we're helping them out and how we're troubleshooting, right? On the other hand, if you just started out, you may have a simpler error, but you can, or understanding, a hard understanding how the individual pieces of a web application, how they fit together. Something we talk about in the office hours. And then if you're a student who's like 8 weeks ahead, right, you see that error message, or you see that challenge that student is going through right now, and you're like, hey, I've been exactly at the same spot 6, 7 weeks ago. So let me answer that question, right? And then you have that valuable teach back moment, and it solidifies your learning in a completely different way. So that's the support system, right? The Q&A forum that really makes sure you get rid of all your error messages right when you have them, so you don't spin your wheels and spend countless hours solving an error message when you could just ask for help quickly. And then that enables us to come to the mentorship sessions error-free and really focus on what matters the most to get your skill to the next level. And then we have the office hours where we all come together to learn troubleshooting techniques and go over all kinds of topics, from career advice to the theory behind how the pieces on the web application fit together, to like deep technical things. I'm actually sharing code and pair programming live in front of the entire group. All right, that was the support system. Now, I said in the beginning, I'm gonna answer one question, which is, what can I really do after I graduate, right? So besides landing a job, right, or having your own application live as an entrepreneur, the one thing, the skills that you have, right, is like, if you can think of an idea, you can now create. You can go spend the weekend, spend a few days, open your computer, code, and you can push that web application live and share with your family, friends, your first 100 users, and actually get user feedback and then improve upon and have that idea and go out there and build awesome things that the world needs. So you definitely have those skills. Now, guys, if you have any question already, I'm seeing like my inbox is going crazy right now with questions. So I'm gonna jump in, look at some of your questions. But if you have any other questions, then just email me. You guys all have my email, or put it in the Google Plus page. So let me check what kind of question we have. Looking over here. Okay, I got a few. Oh, these are good questions. Good stuff. Here's the first one. What's the application process? Okay, I like that. I mentioned that in the very beginning a little bit. What's the application process to the Firehose project, right? So if you go to theFirehoseProject.com, in the top nav, you see coding bootcamp pre-work, right? Click on that, apply for the pre-work. It's a free course. It's 2 weeks. I'm actually looking at a lot of people's code every single day and help you guys understand. And it runs you through building a simple splash page with CSS and HTML. And it runs you through a whole section of how to write good Ruby code to solve several coding challenges. And it's a good place for you to actually learn something, and you walk away with a cool looking website on a server, but also a few Ruby scripts. And it's really important in learning the Ruby programming language and getting those fundamentals. And then for us, it's really good to see, like, can you actually solve those challenges, right? Can we take you and can we accelerate your skills to the next level where you're either ready to launch your own application or to land a job as a web developer? So that's the pre-work, that's the application process. Obviously, any questions that come up, let me know, right? We always are really open to helping people out. We do that, that's why we do the pre-work for free and really want people to apply. So one thing I ask you, if you apply for the pre-work, make sure you actually take a moment and fill out the application, right? Don't just write 1 or 2 sentences. We really look at that, and we actually opening up accounts based on what you put into that application. So take 5 minutes and think about, what's your coding background? What are your coding goals? That's really important for us to get to know you, but also to customize the curriculum for you down the line based on your previous experience and what you want to get out of it. All right, good question. Let's see, what's the next one? How are the materials presented? Oh, I like that one. Okay, materials, right? What happens if you go through our program? So first of all, if you sign up for the pre-work and you accept it, you get beamed straight into our learning platform, so you can see everything, right? You can't access some of the lessons, right, because they're meant for people in the core program, but you can get a really good feeling. So it's another reason, why you should apply for the pre-work. Now, how are the materials presented? We do a mix of everything, right? There's some live instruction during mentorship session and office hours. There's written coding guides that are really detailed, and there's video sessions. So I'd say every time you build a web application and you go through building a feature out, let's say an an automated email notification room feature that emails out when somebody had left a comment on your awesome pizza restaurant, right? When we're building that out, we're going through written documentation, step-by-step coding instructions on how to build that. Now, why are those written? Is because that's how it is in the real world too. Once you're a professional web developer, you use a lot of open source code to pull it into your documentation, or you integrate with APIs. And to do that, you always read documentation, and documentation is always in written format. And the sooner you learn how to follow written instructions inside of a document, inside of documentation related to code, the better off you are. So while you're actually going through these written guides, you're actually learning how to use documentation, which is a key skill down the lines. That was one of the major reasons. The other reason why we choose written documentation for most of our coding guides is because it's a really good reference library for you down the line, right? Let's say you graduated and you're 6 months out of the program, and we hear that back from so many students. They come in and they're like, oh man, I forgot how to integrate with the Google Map API, but I knew exactly this was in lesson 32 of my Yelp clone. They quickly come in, they look up that one line of code that they forgot, and off they go, right? And they start integrating because they remember all the rest. So that reference is really cool. Videos, you would be jumping back and forth, and it'd be really hard to find what you needed fast. So real world application of following documentation, and then because it's a really good reference library for you to jump back and forth. Now, we also have videos, and we usually give you the videos at the time that you need them. So that means if you're going through and we're like, okay, now is a really good time for you to understand how all the different pieces of a web application fit together, right? What's the model? What's the view? What's the controller? How do my routes work? We give you video overview sessions that explain every little detail of that, so you get that big zoom out view of how things work. And then also we do that with object-oriented programming, something that you really need to understand when building web applications, right? That deep dive on these topics that are really important for you as an entrepreneur, as well as somebody finding a job. Same goes with inheritance or test-driven development, right? We all have these specific modules that you need to watch at the right time to understand. And then obviously, as I mentioned, right, we have the mentorship sessions in the office hours. That's live instruction where you get that one-on-one time. Cool, but great question, great question. Let's see, do we have more? Guys, if you have more, let me know. Reply to my email. I'm serious. I'm gonna go through all of them and wanna make sure I answer all your questions. What are the differences between us and competitors, like other online coding boot camps? Great, that's a great question. Okay, I think there's two big things that we're different than all the other coding boot camps out there. And I think the biggest one is the group project. I stated it before. You need to know how to code collaboratively build software as a team. If you don't have that skill, it's going to be really hard for you as a career seeker to find a job. As an entrepreneur, it's going to be just as hard to convince another developer to help you out if you don't even know how to work together with that person on a technical level, right? So definitely the group project, learning how to do that and learning from other people how they solved a certain challenge, looking at their code, refactoring that code, the whole communication as a team, that's a huge component of how real-world web development teams work. Getting that already in the last 4 weeks of the coding bootcamp is key. We have that. We've done it for as long as I can remember, and it's a crucial component of your success going through our program and moving on into the real world. Now, the other thing is the depth of the curriculum, right? We focus a lot on the coding concepts and writing really good code, like the test-driven development, industry standard, right? These are things you absolutely need. Algorithms, right? You need to write really good Ruby code to actually solve complicated computer science problems. If you don't know how to do that, you can never build an advanced web application. You can never put an algorithm inside of your application and actually make it work. So there's more happening on an application than just a form that somebody submits and something else gets shown on another site. That is not impressive to a professional web developer, right? And it also only gets you so far if you can do what there's called CRUD, create, read, update, and destroy, or delete application. They're not that exciting. They're cool in the beginning, but you really want to make sure you're able to advance and get to the next level. That's why we're focusing so much on Ruby programming language coding, and then also learning how to write good algorithms and writing really good Ruby code. So again, group project, really important. Algorithms, the depth of the curriculum, what we're teaching, really in-depth and really important to the real world. Let's see. Why is a group project so important? Yeah, I think I just answered that, right? Again, real world application. Always think about how is the best software built in the world? By amazing teams. You want to be able to build software as a team because you want to be part of that amazing team. So that's why a group project is so important. I have another one here from Irvin. How long is the bootcamp? Is there going to be career assistance afterwards? Okay, 2 questions. Good ones, Irvin. How long is the bootcamp? 12 weeks, right? So you starting out with the pre-work, that's 2 weeks, and then 12 weeks core program. So 14 weeks total. You might go through the pre-work faster, depending on your coding background, but 12 weeks core program, 2 weeks pre-work. So 14 weeks all together. You're only paying for the core program. The pre-work we're giving you for free. Then I hope that answers your question. There was a second one. Let me check. Is there going to be career assistance afterwards? Definitely. I'll spend several hours every week talking to our graduates. But the career assistance doesn't start at the end. It starts in week 2. That's when we start writing Ruby code to solve coding challenges. Now, our coding challenges are not something that we just came up, right? These are real-world interview questions that are actually used by PayPal, by Yahoo, by Flickr, by big companies and also startups that are in Techstars. They use these coding challenges to actually screen out candidates before they even talk to them, right? So in week 2, you're learning how to solve these real-world problems. So you're actually starting the career preparation in week 2, not in week 10 or 11, right? Back then, we're dealing with a lot different challenges than we do in week 2. So you want to start early. So we're starting that in week 2, where you're writing actually that Ruby code to learn how to solve these complicated computer science problems that are so important in your technical interview when you're looking for a job. So yeah, Irvin, I hope that answered your question. So let me know if it didn't. I have another question here. Hold on, just pulling it up. What are this is from Jim C. What are the scheduled cohort convening dates? I think you mean, when do you accept new students? I hope I understood your question right. So we're starting new students every Monday. So you don't have to wait for another cohort. It's always on a rolling admission basis. Every new Monday we're starting students. Again, apply for the pre-work, which you get at theFirehoseProject.com. Look at the top nav. And apply for that and spend some time actually thinking what you put in the application form, because we look through all of that. Tweet at us too, we love that. That oftentimes gets somebody going like, oh wow, Jim just tweeted at us, I'm gonna look at his application right now, and that puts you on top of the list. So definitely feel free to reach out that way as well. So yeah, I hope I got your question right, Jim. Okay, Jim, I think you just sent me another email. When are the cohort start dates? So every Monday, right? I think I got that. Cool, awesome. Here's another question. What are some of your graduates doing now? Oh, I love that question. Okay, let's go through a few examples. Stephen is one of our entrepreneurs in the program, and he built a on-demand, make sure I get this right, on-demand medical marijuana delivery app, right? So basically an Uber clone. You say, I want like an eighth of an ounce or something, and you see the car on a map coming towards you. When it's like 2 minutes away from your house, you walk down, a window rolls down, you grab your little bag, payment is already processed, right? He built this. He just sent me a link this morning how he was interviewed from, was it CBS, the morning show over in Sacramento on the West Coast, right? That's what he's up to right now. So that's awesome. He's actually having users on his application, and he makes money with that. That's great. Other students are Erin in New York City. She was a front desk office admin, non-technical role at a big company in New York City, and she really wanted to learn web development. And one of the things, I just had a conversation with her, she just started a job on Monday as a junior web developer, and she told me, like, one of the companies I always wanted to be at, I never knew how to get to, was Artsy, a huge, very well-funded tech company in New York City that makes it possible that every art is online, buyable online, so you don't have to go to the individual galleries, right? And they're, I don't know how many tens of millions of funding they have. Huge team headquarters is in New York, London, San Francisco offices, and she always wanted to work there. And then she actually got an interview, and now she worked there. She just started on Monday. She was like, holy smokes, I did not see any path into this organization, and now I'm actually working there as a developer on their core product. So that was really exciting for us to hear. Then I'm gonna have a talk with her this week or next week. I wanna hear how her first week at Artsy went. So I'm really excited about that. And she was a really great student of ours. And by the way, Erin, during her interview, went through all the code that she worked on during the group project, building the chess game, right? So they actually looked at that and they're like, wow, this is exactly how we're doing it at Artsy, what you do in a group project. So that's something that I think was really cool and showed the quality of our code, how that actually lands you jobs. It's not what you say necessarily in an interview. Of course, that matters as well, but it's also like, what's the quality of your code and what you actually produce? And that's what the technical hiring manager and the web development team that evaluates you during a technical interview really look at. Then we have another story, which is Angel. He's over in Los Angeles, and he was working as a, he was selling used cars off a parking lot somewhere in South LA. And he went through our program. He didn't have a lot of background in coding, actually. And this was before we had our PreWork. So we looked at him and was like, if you're ready to put in the time, we can make that happen. And now he's the lead web developer of one of the young startups out in LA. And he's actually like, man, I changed my career completely. So from parking lot selling used cars to actually now doing web development for a startup in LA. So he's really happy as well. So these are just 3 ideas of what plenty of our students are doing. So I hope that answered that question. Okay, we got another one here. Moni Patel, I think. Can you do both a group project and entrepreneur capstone project? Can you do both at the same time, right? So this is a question I get a lot where people go like, hey, I want to do both. What I really want to be is like, I want to have a job as a backup plan, and I want to launch my awesome startup and build this web application. But if it doesn't work, then I take a job, right? Well, that sounds great in theory, but you should focus on one thing. The best outcomes in life happen when you focus on one thing, you set a goal, and you go and achieve it, right? You don't say like, well, I want to climb this peak and that peak and kind of at the same. Where you're going to walk is in the valley the whole time. So you don't want to do that. You want to set your sight on one goal and go for it, right? If you're between the two, entrepreneurial track, career track, go with the career track. Learn everything that you will do there. It's a lot deeper on the algorithms. You may not have your application live, graduate, find a job, right? And then work on a side project and build your application while you're on the job and learning more and more skills because you're working with a really good web development team together. Much better success rate on that than banking on that you actually launch your startup and making enough money within 6 months to support you full time. Now, there's some people who's like, no, this is not about the money. I really want to learn those skills, or maybe I want to go through the bootcamp part-time and keep my job. And I'm not sure between which way I want to go. Well, then we have that conversation during the onboarding session, right? We're figuring out where do you want to go, left or right, right? But again, if you're in between, usually I, as a general advice, go with the career seeker track. So I wouldn't advise you doing both because you're splitting your time, right? You have only so much attention to give. So you really want to accelerate and excel in one area. Either give it a full attention of the entrepreneur track, the capstone project, or full attention to the career seeker path. And that way you achieve really good results. And that's what we've seen in our best students. They always focused intently on one area, and that's what they did. And that's how they did so well. So yeah, Moni, I hope that answered your question. I'm sorry, of course, we always want to have everything, right? But it's good at focusing and really doing well in one area. So I hope that answered your question. I think, let me double check if you have some more questions. Guys, if you have more questions, let me know. Otherwise, I think I'm pretty much out of questions. So if I don't see anything popping in via email or the group in a few minutes, next steps, right? If you like what you see here, go to theFirehoseProject.com, apply to our PreWork. I'll check out your applications and we have you started with that later tonight or tomorrow. You can get started coding your first HTML splash page. If you already have some background, right? We also have people going through the background who already had like 10, 14 years of web development or development experience with other programming languages, and they want to actually bring their coding skills to the cutting edge, right? Still go through the pre-work, can probably finish it a lot faster, and then we can figure out the next steps for you, how we actually get you through the curriculum and make sure we bring you to the cutting edge in your skill set. So that might be a different group that some of you might watch right now. Other than that, this was pretty fun. I don't see any more questions coming in. So thanks so much for coming. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the pre-work. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, anything, want to give me a high five because you like the info session tonight, send me an email, give me a high five, send me a funny give, anything goes. Until then, guys, thumbs up, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.